The first thing I noticed was her laughter. It wasn't the casual, half-hearted laugh she gave me when I told one of my corny jokes. No, this laugh was alive, unrestrained, the kind that started in the chest and carried into the air like music. And it wasn't for me. From my seat near the back of the dimly lit restaurant, I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. There she was, my wife Claire, sitting at a corner table, leaning into a man I didn't recognize, her hand brushing his arm as though it belonged there. His face glowed under the warm light as he whispered something that made her tilt her head back and laugh again. I felt something snap inside me. Not rage, not yet, just a heavy, hollow thud of disbelief. The silent cracks. Claire and I had been married for 9 years. 9 years of routines, compromises, Sunday morning coffee, and late-night whispers. Lately, though, I'd noticed the small shifts. How she turned her phone face down, how she lingered longer in the shower, how her goodnight kisses grew shorter, more mechanical. I told myself I was imagining things. After all, we were just busy. Work, bills, family obligations, it wore people down. But here, watching her smile with a man who wasn't me, I realized I hadn't been paranoid. I'd been blind. Betrayal served cold. I couldn't stop staring. My palms were slick, my chest tight. Every instinct screamed at me to storm across the room, to demand answers, to make a scene. But I didn't. I sat there, gripping the edge of the table until my knuckles whitened, forcing myself to observe. She leaned in closer to him, her fingers sliding along his hand. Their heads touched. For a moment, it was as if they'd forgotten the world existed. It wasn't just a fling. This wasn't meaningless. I knew Claire. Knew the way her body language gave her away. She was invested. I couldn't breathe. My wife, the woman I had built a life with, was in another man's arms. The spiral. I left the restaurant before she could see me. The cold night air bit into my skin as I staggered to my car. My heart felt like glass shattering in my chest, each piece cutting deeper than the last. Driving home, the questions tore through me like knives. How long had this been going on? Was it my fault? Was I not enough? I sat in the driveway for nearly an hour, headlights cutting across the garage door, before finally going inside. Her coat still hung on the rack, her favorite mug sat in the sink. The house looked normal, too normal. I wanted to scream, to tear it all down. Instead, I collapsed onto the couch, numb, staring at the ceiling as my marriage unraveled in silence. The confrontation. When Claire walked through the door later that night, I watched her carefully. She smiled faintly, but her eyes darted away from mine. "You're up late," she said, hanging up her coat. "Where were you?" My voice was flat, almost detached. She hesitated, then replied too quickly. "Dinner with a friend." I felt my jaw clench. "A friend?" "Yes," she said, meeting my gaze now, her face composed. Too composed. I could have told her I'd seen everything. I could have shattered her mask right then. But something inside me, maybe pride, maybe cowardice, held back. Instead I said, "I hope you had a nice time." The flicker of surprise in her eyes told me she hadn't expected that. Nights of distance. The following days were torture. I couldn't unsee what I'd witnessed. Every time Claire smiled at her phone, every time she came home late, every time she avoided my touch, the image of her leaning into that man burned brighter in my mind. I wanted to confront her, to demand the truth. But I also wanted to cling to the hope, however fragile, that maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was some explanation. But deep down I knew. Our home became a quiet battlefield. Conversations turned to small talk, intimacy vanished, and silence stretched between us like a canyon. The breaking point. It was a Friday night when I finally broke. She had told me she was working late, but something in my gut twisted, urging me to follow. I drove downtown, heart pounding, and parked near her office. Hours passed, but she never came out. Instead, I saw her walking, hand in hand, with the same man from the restaurant. They crossed the street, disappearing into the glow of a hotel lobby. My chest caved in. My vision blurred. I gripped the steering wheel until it groaned, But no amount of pressure could stop the wave of devastation crashing over me. That was it. The proof I couldn't deny. Shattered illusions. When she returned home the next morning, her hair messy, her blouse slightly wrinkled, I sat waiting at the kitchen table. "Claire," I said, my voice shaking. "Where were you?" She froze, keys still in her hand. "Work. Don't lie to me." Her face tightened, and for the first time I saw guilt flicker through her eyes. "James," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Understood. I saw you." "The hotel. With him." Silence fell heavy between us. Finally, she sank into a chair, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of her secret had crushed her. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said softly. I felt invisible. We've been so distant, and he made me feel alive again." Her words sliced deeper than any knife. Invisible. Distant. Was that all our years together had amounted to? The storm within. I wanted to scream, to curse her, to tell her she had destroyed everything. But instead, tears blurred my vision. "Do you love him?" I asked, barely above a whisper. She hesitated. That hesitation was louder than any answer. I turned away, the floor tilting beneath me. My marriage was over. The unexpected turn. I spent the next week at a friend's place, drowning in silence and whiskey. My phone buzzed constantly. Claire's calls, her texts, but I ignored them all. Until one night, a message from an unknown number lit up my screen. "Please meet me. It's about Claire." Against my better judgment, I went. At a quiet cafe, a woman sat waiting. She introduced herself as Anna, the man's wife. "He's been doing this for years," she said, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were photos, messages, proof of his string of affairs. "Claire isn't the first. And she won't be the last." The ground shifted beneath me. My wife wasn't just betraying me, she was being played too. Choice. When I finally agreed to see Claire again, she looked broken. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling as she reached for mine. "I ended it," she whispered. "I was so stupid. He didn't care about me. I see that now. But you, James, please, I can't lose you. I want to fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." Her words hit me like a storm. Part of me wanted to run, to slam the door shut on the pain she'd caused. But another part, the part that remembered our late-night talks, our shared dreams, our quiet moments of laughter, hesitated. Could we rebuild from the rubble? Or was it too late? Until she came. The weeks that followed were a blur of counseling sessions, raw confessions, and endless nights of doubt. Trust was shattered, but Claire fought, harder than I'd ever seen her fight for anything. And slowly, painfully, I saw glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with. The woman who used to sit on the porch with me at sunset, sipping coffee and planning our future. It wasn't easy. Some days I wanted to walk away. But then there were days when she'd hold me, tears in her eyes, whispering, "I'm here. I'm not letting go." And it was in those moments that I realized something unexpected. Maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe this was the beginning of something new. Because when she came back, not just to the house but to me, truly, fully, I understood that our story wasn't finished. I watched my wife in another man's arms, and in that moment, I thought everything was lost. The betrayal cut deep, leaving scars I'll carry forever. But sometimes love isn't about perfection. It's about surviving the fire, about choosing to rebuild even when the foundation is cracked. I don't know what the future holds for us. Trust doesn't return overnight. But for now she's here. And so am I. And maybe that's enough.